it's weird. David has this, like, he gets really pious
Yeah.
with his enemies.
Yeah.
You know, he gets really like, I'm going to love my enemy.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it almost seems like at the expense
Right.
of the people who are on his side.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we will see that he gets called out for that by Joab here in a little bit. So, welcome back to the Physics of Faith podcast. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Tim.
And we are continuing through the life of David, and we are kind of nearing the end. Just a few episodes left, and just to kind of recap where we were last week, Absolom, one of David's sons, has kind of betrayed him, and he's trying to overthrow Israel. He's gathered his own fighting men. He's he's basically trying to take the city, and David and all of his allies have fled.
Yeah.
And so, again, David's life would be too long to go chapter by chapter. It'd take us a year, so we're going to kind of skip ahead a little bit here. So we're going to skip chapters 15, 16, and 17, and we're going to jump ahead to chapter 18, but I want to briefly recap kind of what happens in chapters 15, 16, and 17. So, as we mentioned, David and his men flee the city. He's walking up the Mount of Olives, and they bring the Ark of the Covenant with them. And he says, no, leave it. You know, and the Ark of the Covenant, that was the thing that always went ahead of battle. That was where the power of God resided. And you know, so anything, as we learn in Indiana Jones, any army that with the Ark of the Covenant would be invincible, right? No, but and David actually says to leave the Ark of the Covenant. He says no, leave it there. If I am to perish because of this, if it is God's will to take me because of this, let God's will be done. Even though he knows that God says you will not die because of this, all this, he says like, hey, if this is the end for me, let God's will be done. Leave the Ark of the Covenant behind, and. So, as you mentioned, kind of as we were ending our last episode, Ahithophel, one of David's trusted advisors, kind of deserts David and goes along with Absolom.
Right.
And he tells Absolom to sleep with David's concubines, which we've already talked about early on. When God says, like, "Hey, I will give your wives to someone you trust, and it's going to be really embarrassing for you." And so
and very public, yeah.
Yeah, and very public. And so that's basically what happens here is that Absolom sleeps with David's concubines on the roof of the palace.
Yeah, I think this is a really important thing to keep in mind because I think we're going to see, well, we're not going to see it, but this happens again, or something like this happens again. But this idea of sleeping with the king's concubines was to say that I am now the king,
right?
And everything he had, I own and can do with as I please.
Yeah. So that happens. Absalom basically takes over and takes control of the city, and Ahithophel tells him to attack. You know, he says like David's on the run now. He's old. He's tired. There's no better time than now to attack him.
He's just sitting around writing poetry.
Yeah. And Hushai, another advisor, tells him not to. Says, no, that's not a good idea. And as you mentioned, God ordained Ahithophel's to frustrate, as it's kind of worded in here, he ordained to frustrate Ahithophel's advice.
Yeah.
And so basically, Absalom ignores Ahithophel's advice. He doesn't do what he tells him to do. And Ahithophel is like, well, I guess that's it for me. And he hangs himself because of it. He's seeing that his advice was not followed.
Yeah, seems like a dramatic turn, but
yeah. So David readies his men. He's like, okay, well, let's not just completely give up here. And so he readies his men. They arm themselves and like they're ready for a fight, even though they think that one is coming. That Absalom doesn't actually attack him.
Yeah.
Basically, they fight back. Basically, goes to war against Israel, and he says to be gentle with Absalom. Basically, saying, "Hey, if you capture him, don't be gentle with him. Don't kill him. Don't harass him. Don't That's the right. Torture him.
Yeah.
Be gentle with him. You would think that when the guy that's overthrown you and has got you on the run, you would think that would not be what you'd said. That would be like, hey, we're taking that guy out, and that's not what David says here.
But it's been pretty consistent with David's character. And like we see him with Saul. He doesn't want to kill Saul because Saul was anointed king. He grieves over the loss of his son who raped his sister.
Yep.
It seems like the only people David doesn't. It's weird. David has this he gets really pious.
Yeah.
With his enemies.
Yeah.
He gets really I'm going to love my enemy.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it almost seems like at the expense of the people who are on his side.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we will see that he gets called out for that by Joab here in a little bit. So, yeah. So we're going to pick it up in 2 Samuel chapter 18. We're going to start in verse 6, and we're going to go through chapter 19, verses 8. In this episode, we're going to start in verses 6 through 8. I got to find it here first. David's army marched out of the city to fight Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim, where there Israel's troops were routed by David's men, and the casualties that day were great, 20,000 men. The battle spread out over the whole countryside, and the forest swallowed up more men that day than the sword. So we're kind of back to the good old days of every time David goes to war, he wins by a lot. So and this just shows God has not completely left David. As we saw so often that David's like, God is with me, God fights for me, and my victories are God's. And so they go to war here and they lay waste, just like that. That's how David became famous in that way. Sense.
Yeah. Now something interesting here though. David was ready to march out to this battle. Like we didn't see him before.
Yeah.
But Joab says, don't. So this happens a couple verses before. Joab's like, no, you're the aging king. We're going to, trust us. We'll fight the battle for you.
Yeah.
So David is not at this battle.
Yeah. Okay, verse, that's a good point because he does say hey, if you guys capture Absolom, be gentle with him. So yeah. So verses 9 through 18. Now Absolom happened to meet David's men. He was riding his mule, and as the mule went under the thick branches of a large oak, Absalom's hair got caught in the tree. He was left hanging in midair while the mule he was riding kept going. When one of the men saw what had happened, he told Joab, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak tree. Joab said to the man who had told him this, What? You saw him? Why didn't you strike him to the ground right there? Then I would have had to give you 10 shekels of silver and a warrior's belt. But the man replied, Even if 1,000 shekels were weighed out into my hands, I would not lay a hand on the king's son. In our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, protect the young man Absalom for my sake. And if I had put my life in jeopardy and nothing is hidden from the king, you would have kept your distance from me. Joab said, I am not going to wait like this for you. So he took 3 javelins in his hand and plunged them into Absalom's heart while Absalom was still alive in the oak tree. And 10 of Joab's armor-bearers surrounded Absalom, struck him, and killed him. Then Joab sounded the trumpet, and the troops stopped pursuing Israel, for Joab halted them. They took Absalom, threw him into a big pit in the forest, and piled up a large heap of rocks over him. Meanwhile, all the Israelites fled to their homes. During his lifetime, Absalom had taken a pillar and erected it in the king's valley as a monument to himself, for he thought, I have no son to carry on the memory of my name. He named the pillar after himself, and it is called Absalom's monument to this day. So, we didn't... This was mentioned earlier in a chapter that we didn't go into, but one of the things we did talk about how Absalom was a very good-looking guy, and he had this long, beautiful, flowing hair.
Yeah.
And there's actually a story that he would let his hair grow, and he would cut it once a year, and it would be very, very heavy. It would be it was weighted like the weight of metal. That's how much hair he had, and so this was the thing of vain for Absalom. We know he was a good-looking guy, and he was vain about it. And it kind of ended up doing him in.
Yeah.
So first thing to mention here, Absalom's riding a mule.
Yeah.
You don't ride a mule when you're leading an army. Not exactly the most,
Yeah.
When we talked about when Jesus goes into this when Jesus goes into Jerusalem to be crucified, he comes in riding a donkey, and that's all prophesied. And that's not what the people of Israel Jerusalem expected, because they thought that Jesus was going to be this king riding a white horse that's going to be,
Yeah.
and he comes in riding a donkey, know. And so that's part of the prophecy, that Jesus wasn't like what people thought he was. And so you don't ride a mule in battle.
Yeah.
so that's one of the weird, like, that's part one of Absalom's one of his he wasn't exactly a mighty warrior that he thought he was.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And they're on the retreat, so maybe he grabbed the only thing he could.
Yeah. And so he gets caught up by what makes him attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you made the whole Bible into a movie, it would be X-rated because of some of the things that we talk about. But there's some things that are kind of funny.
Sure.
I mean, the idea that a guy is riding, and his hair gets caught in a tree and the mule keeps riding. See, if a horse probably would have stopped.
Yeah.
A mule is kind of dumb. It's like, it's going to keep going on. Like, oh, it's a lot lighter now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it is interesting. And then you wonder, too, how long is he hanging there?
Yeah.
Because, does he have a sword? Can he cut his hair off?
Right, yeah.
What are we doing here? Why are you just hanging from this tree? Essentially? Yeah.
Yeah, and so, as you mentioned, Joab was kind of a hurricane a little bit. And Joab, he wanted Absalom dead, He was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not dealing with, I know David told me to do this, but I'm not doing this. And here he is. We're done with this.
Yeah, it's really interesting because somebody sees Absalom, brings it to Joab, and Joab's like, why didn't you kill him?
Yeah.
This is the rebel. This is the guy who's trying to overthrow the king. This is the guy who's got us all out here. This is why 20,000 are dead.
Yeah.
Right? Why didn't you kill him? And he even says, I give you a reward.
Yeah.
I would have had to have rewarded you because
Exactly.
you would be owed this. And it's interesting. The guy's response is like, I'm not going to accept any reward for killing the king's son. Now, I wonder too, how much of David's reputation has preceded him at this point.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to accept any reward. And he even accuses Joab in that. And he's like, and if I had put my life in jeopardy and nothing is hidden from the king, you would have kept your distance from me.
Yeah.
He's like, Joab, you would have left me. You would have hung me out to dry. You would have been like, he's the one who did it.
Yeah.
And that's when Joab is like, you know what? Fine. Give me the spears. And he goes over.
3 of them.
He takes 3 spears.
Yeah.
And he kills him. And Joab, I was telling you earlier, I think sometimes I relate so much to Joab, and it's unfortunate because he's not necessarily a good guy.
Yeah.
But in my mind, he's kind of got this expression of,
Yeah.
just do the thing. Just fight the battle. Just win the war. And we saw how he had to deal with Uriah.
Yeah.
And how that played out. And he's also incredibly shrewd, and we're going to see a little bit more of that as this goes on.
Yeah. Well, and so this is the complicated nature of Joab,
Yeah.
And we could probably do a couple episodes on Joab himself, because he does have a very complicated legacy in the Bible, in that he's disobedient to David here.
Yeah.
David told him to not lay hands on him, and Joab not just 3 spears in the heart, and he's still alive, and so they killed him while he's hanging there with the 3 spears in him.
Yeah.
So it was not pretty for him. But at the long story, he's probably, you can see where Joab's coming from, and that's probably what David should have told him to do. David's blind because he is his own son.
Yeah.
But let's look at Absalom. Kills Amnon. Now, again, Amnon, he did that as the punishment for, again, it's all complicated because of David's sin,
Yes.
And so it gets complicated, and it's because this is how awful sin it gets in our lives.
Yeah.
But he does that. He basically rapes David's concubines.
Yeah.
then he lies to all these people. He sets himself up as king, and he overthrows the city.
Yeah.
You can see where Joab's coming from.
Yeah, it's wild when you think about what he does to the concubines and when you consider what he did to Amnon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was an issue because that was my sister.
Yeah.
This is not an issue because, well, now I'm the king.
Yeah.
Right? So so Absalom is clearly not this righteous bastion of justice that he thinks he is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so not only does he kill him, but he throws him in a pit, throws rocks over the like there is no memorial. There is nothing pretty about it. Like we're not going to have any. We're not even going to respect him in death.
No, well, he gets stabbed 3 times with 3 javelins, and then 10 more men come up and surround him and attack him as well.
Yeah, so
I wonder about that. Like, and then they throw him in this pit and bury him. And I wonder about that with Joab. Was it like, all right, everybody strike him so nobody can tell, so David can't tell that it was my spears that killed him?
There's probably some truth to that.
Yeah.
Well, and we also see here another strike against Absalom. During his lifetime, Absalom had taken a pillar and erected it in the king's value as a monument to himself, for he thought, I have no son to carry on the memory of my name. He named the pillar after himself and is called Absalom's monument to this day. So not only was he murderer, a rapist, an overthrower, and a traitor, and he set himself up as a god, and he built monuments to his name,
Yeah, he was, again, this is his vanity. This is his, I should be the one remembered. I should be the one in charge. I should be the one carrying out all this justice. It should be me.
Yeah.
Everything should be mine. And that is arrogance. That is vanity. That is so many issues with Absalom.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue on in chapter 18, verses. This is going to be a little bit longer one. We're going to read 19 through 33. This is going to be a little bit longer, but I didn't really see a good way to break this up. So 19 through 33. Now Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said, let me run and take the news to the king, and the Lord has vindicated him by delivering him from the hand of his enemies. You are not the one to take the news today, Joab told him. You may take the news another time, but you must not do so today because the king's son is dead. Then Joab said to a Cushite, go, tell the king that you have seen what you have seen. The Cushite bowed down before Joab and ran off. Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, again said to Joab, come what may, please let me run behind the Cushite. But Joab replied, my son, why do you want to go? You don't have any news that will bring you a reward. He said, come what may, I want to run. So Joab said, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and outran the Cushite. While David was sitting between the inner and outer gates, the watchman went up to the roof of the gateway by the wall. As he looked out, he saw a man running alone. The watchman called out to the king and reported it. The king said, if he is alone, he must have good news. And the runner came closer and closer. Then the watchman saw another runner, and he called down to the gatekeeper, look, another man running alone. The king said he must be bringing good news too. The watchman said, it seems to me that the first one runs like Ahimaaz, son of Zadok. He's a good man, the king said. He comes with good news. Then Ahimaaz called out to the king, all is well. He bowed down before the king with his face to the ground and said, praise be to the Lord your God. He has delivered up those who lifted their hands against my lord the king. The king asked, is the young man Absalom safe? Ahimaaz answered, I saw great confusion just as Joab was about to sing the king's servant about me, your servant, but I don't know what it was. The king said, stand aside and wait here. So he stepped aside and stood there. Then the Cushite arrived and said, my lord the king, hear the good news. The Lord has vindicated you today by delivering you from the hand of all who rose up against you. The king asked the Cushite, is the young man Absalom safe? The Cushite replied, may the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up to harm you be like that young man. The king was shaken. He went up to the room over the gateway, and he wept. As he went, he said, oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son. So, Joab is trying to send the right messenger here.
Yes, yeah, this is really interesting.
And he's like, no, not you, because you're not gonna. Again, how many times is it best? So many times you think about there's good news and there's bad news. And you want to receive bad news in the right way.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes the messenger or the way that you present a message can kill the message itself. You know?
Yeah. Well, yes, you're right. I don't know that that's why Joab is like being like, he doesn't want, I think he doesn't want the right tone.
Yeah.
Because if he wanted the right tone, he would have sent
Yeah.
Ahimaaz.
Yeah.
Right? Ahimaaz is a good man. Like they say this later in the thing, right?
Right.
He's the son of Zadok the high priest, who stayed behind with the ark, or who followed David's command not to bring the ark. But he's been serving David faithfully, and because of that, he wants to deliver the news. But Joab, I think what's telling about Joab is he says, "This isn't for you to tell him."
Yeah.
And he goes and he gets a Cushite.
Yeah.
Now, we think back, Joab's the one who had to send the messenger about Uriah's death,
Yeah.
right? And basically he had to say, we lost this battle, but we lost it because you wanted Uriah dead,
Yeah.
right? And he gives him things to say. He tells him how to deliver the message
Right.
in a way that David would be able to understand. And when we talked about that, we talked about how David, again, we go back to how Saul died. When the Amalekite comes and says, I'm the one who killed Saul, put him out of his misery, did it for you, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
What was David's response? How dare you kill God's anointed?
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's telling that, I think in this moment, and I think we saw it too with the man who saw Absalom hanging. He says to Joab, if I had killed him, you would have let me swing for that.
Yeah.
You would have distanced yourself from me for that.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He finds the immigrant. He
Yeah.
finds the guy who used to be among the Cushites.
Yeah.
And he says,
You go.
you go and you deliver this news. Why? Because we just killed the king's son.
Yeah.
So he's expecting David to be so angry that whoever delivers the news may be
Yeah.
lost. So there's some shrewdness in this. There's some, and then when the young man says, "No, I still want to go. Ahimaaz says, "No, please let me run after the Cushite." Joab's like, "But you won't get rewarded."
Yeah.
Right? We see again his talk about rewards. Joab is very like, you do the thing, you get the pay, you do what you're supposed to do, right? And everything else seems a little bit foolish. But he also knows how to play some of the political game here. So it seems to me that Joab wants to protect Ahimaaz, but he has no problem putting the Cushite in danger.
Yeah.
in this scenario.
Yeah, and he keeps pestering him, and he keeps pestering like, but I want to run. I don't know. I guess Ahimaaz, he really liked to run, or he liked to whatever. I mean, because obviously
He was a good runner.
yeah, obviously because he was much faster than the other guy,
Yeah.
than the Cushite, because even though he started later, he outran him and he got there faster.
And he has a known way about him in which he runs. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, by the way, that guy's running.
That looks like
that looks
yeah.
like a Hamas. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he finds like, fine, just go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I read this here. I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but that's the way
Yeah.
I read it. It's like,
like-
Pastor's like, all right,
It's like,
fine.
you know what? I tried. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's this battle going on, and there's this war. And the first thing that David asks about is his son.
Yep.
And so that's it's telling of David's heart, where his priority was at that point, because he gave them instructions to not harm him, and that's the first thing they ask about. And so he says, I saw great confusion just as Job was about to sing the king's servant, me your servant, but I don't know what it was. Like he's basically he's showed up and he's run. He's like, hey, I'm here. I don't know what I was supposed to tell you though.
Hey, we won. I just don't know by how much.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he wanted. He's so bad. I think he just wanted to run. He didn't really want a message. He just wanted to run.
And I just started running. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the reason that a marathon is 26 miles is because there was that battle, and the reason is like he ran 26 miles. Like, hey, we won, and then he collapsed over and died. That's why a marathon is 26 miles. But
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I think he was so excited to come and to share news. He's like, "Oh, I'm here." Like, what is it? Like, I don't remember. I look at it's like a 7-year-old. Like, oh, go tell your dad whatever. He's like, Dad. Like what? Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the Cushite gets there, and he says, "My lord, the king, hear the good news. The Lord has vindicated you today by delivering you from the hand of all who rose up against you." He's like, "Okay, you didn't answer my question. What came of Absalom?" Like the first thing of Absalom. He's like, "Oh yeah, everything went well. The battle went great." It's like, what happened to Absalom? He's like, and then he says, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up to harm you be like that young man." Like he says it without saying it, and David realizes it, and he is. I mean, we don't see David talk like this. He's like, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom! If only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son, I mean, he is like distraught here.
Yes.
Like you don't hear David talk like that.
Yeah, David is very distraught, and I wonder if some of this is in the fact that David exiled him.
Yeah.
I wonder if David knows that he maybe made some mistakes in his upbringing, and feels responsible for him taking this turn.
Yeah.
So all these despicable things that Absalom's doing, David sees them as his fault, as his own fault.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so continuing on, we'll read chapter 19, verses 1 through 8. Joab was told, "The king is weeping and mourning for Absalom, and for the whole army the victory that day was turned into mourning because on that day the troops heard it said, 'The king is grieving for his son.' The men stole into the city that day as men steal in who are ashamed. When they flee from battle, the king covered his face and cried, 'O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son.' Then Joab went into the house to the king and said, 'Today you have humiliated all your men who have just saved your life and the lives of your sons and daughters, and the lives of your wives and concubines. You love those who hate you and hate those who love you. You have made it clear today that the commanders and their men mean nothing to you. I see that you would be pleased if Absalom were alive today and all of us were dead. Now go out and encourage your men. I swear by the Lord that if you don't go out, not a man will be left with you by nightfall. This will be worse for you than all the calamities that have come on you from your youth till now.' So the king got up and took his seat in the gateway. When the men were told, 'The king is sitting in the gateway,' they all came before him. Meanwhile, the Israelites had fled to their homes." So we see a very different mourning for Absalom than Bathsheba's son. You know, when you think about Bathsheba, he was sick and he was sick, and David wept and wept and wept, and he's like, please, he pleaded and he pleaded, and he's like, no, he passed away. And David's like, okay.
Yeah.
Now Absalom dies, and David is just, he can't be consoled at this point. A very different reaction to, two obviously very different situations.
Yeah. No, it's interesting here because I think we get it, like David's son is dead, and I want to say David loved his son.
Yeah.
But Absalom was doing horrendous things.
Yeah.
And set himself up against the king. And there's more to the kingdom than just the king.
Right.
Right. And that's the thing that David is kind of missing here. But it's interesting to hear him talk like this and say, oh, if only I had died instead. Like he didn't really say that. I don't know if he pled with God to trade places with the infant,
Yeah.
But like he does get to kind of grieve the infant over those 7 days during his supplications, his prayer, and his fasting. He goes through this process of grief. So he's kind of already grieved by the time that the child dies, and now he's resigned to it. At this point, he still has no resignation. In fact, we saw a little bit earlier, as they're coming to give him the news, they're like, it's good news. It's going to be good news. It's going to have to be good news. Yeah. The problem was good news meant victory. Yeah. Victory meant Absalom probably isn't going to make it. Yeah. David wants, I don't know what level of suspension of belief he's got going on here. Yeah. Where he thinks that they're going to win this war and not kill Absalom. Right. But this is what he is hopeful for. This is what he wants to see happen. And in his mind, they can do it. This can happen, right? Yeah. Joab knows that's not the case. Yeah. And might even be the true reason he told the king to stay home. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And so they tell Joab how the king reacted.
You know, they was like, hey, he hands over his face and he's weeping and mourning, oh, Absalom, and Absalom, my son, my son, my son. And Joab is not happy about that.
No.
I mean, he's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like whenever so many times I read scripture, I picture it in certain ways, and I just see him, David on the floor weeping and mourning, and just in this moment, and Joab just bursts in. It's like, David, come on. And like he literally drops the hammer on him.
He does.
He's like, we have won this war. You know, this is all over. This is done. We were fighting and fighting. You were kicked out of your own palace. Your son took over. He betrayed you. All of this. And you are mourning, even though we won all of this. Would you rather have him be alive and everybody else be dead?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. The way he says it, he doesn't ask him.
Yeah.
He accuses him.
Yeah.
He says, it's clear that you would have rather we had all died.
Yeah.
You would have rather we had not protected you. You would have rather we'd not been loyal to you. You'd rather we had died if it meant that Absalom lived.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's really telling because in those first couple verses when he's being told about it, that it mentions that the soldiers that as they come home, this victory became mourning. They had won the victory. They had protected God's anointed king, and now they feel ashamed and like put down because of it.
Right.
So how are they supposed to respond? You have put them in this tough place, and Joab knows you're not going to keep your men this way.
Yeah.
Like because you have devalued the lives that have been sacrificed to bring peace to the kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he says, now go out and encourage your men. I swear by the Lord that if you don't go out, not a man will be left with you by nightfall. He's like, like, they're starting to lose. Like, you've been this guy and everybody has been loyal to you.
Yeah.
And you've been the guy for 40 years now, you know, and you're losing that trust.
Yeah, I almost hear it in my mind as Joab's like, if you haven't gone out by nightfall, I'm going out and we're leaving.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'll take them with me.
This will be worse for you than all the calamities that have come on you from your youth till now. Now,
that's pretty bad.
I did, well, and you know, and I didn't really think about this just till now, but that's the word calamity is, and I didn't do a word study on this, so I could be a little off here, but like that's what the God says, like you will receive all these calamities, you know. Yeah. And that's what the word that Joab uses here. Like it's like Joab knows, like, hey, we know why this is happening. Doofus. Yeah. Like, here's why. And it's only going to get worse if you don't react properly because David, you know, he didn't handle the Amnon situation right. Right. He didn't really handle the Absalom situation right. Yeah. And so now he's not handling the result of handling the somebody else kind of handled the Absalom situation for him, and he's not responding to that properly. Though, yeah. Yeah, you may have been a poor father, but you're going to need to be a good king right now. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And so he's basically like, hey, there is good news here. So the king got up and took his seat in the gateway. When the men were told the king is sitting in the gateway, they all came before him. Meanwhile, the Israelites had fled to their homes. So it's like, okay, finally. It's like, all right, it was ugly for a moment, but it's been taken care of.
Yep.
Any other thoughts or anything else to share on that?
No, it's very interesting to see how David changes from this man of confidence early in his life to this man of kind of wavering depression in his older life, you know. And, you know, he was certain what was right and he was certain what to do when he was a boy fighting Goliath. Yeah. But now things are closer to home. Yeah. And now things are supposed to be good, but he has to make all these decisions, and there's all of these consequences to every decision he's making. And now here he is, and, you know, he's distraught because he knows that his decisions have led to them to this moment. Yeah. So it is really interesting to kind of compare and contrast a young David with an old David. Yeah. And what I love about David, though, is that through all of it, he consistently tries to do what is right in the sight of the Lord. Even when he doesn't do what's right in the eyes of the Lord, he responds when he's called out. Yeah. So he repents when Nathan calls him out. Yeah. And he changes his life and goes about it the way he should be, starts trying to go about things as a king the way he should be going about them.
Yep.
And now here he is going about this the wrong way, and Joab calls him out, and he says, okay. Like David doesn't even say anything.
Right.
So the king just went out and took his seat in the gateway, which was basically his way of coming out and saying, I'm an approval of what you've done for me.
Yeah.
And what you've done for this kingdom. So David responds when he's in his moments of weakness, does the wrong thing, and someone challenges him. He responds and does the right thing.
Yep, for sure. Sounds good. Well, that is all for, I guess, this chapter of David's life, and so we'll finish this up next week.
Sounds good.